I often say then that the destiny of the white child, by the very nature of the racial status quo today, is conservative. And the destiny of the black child, based on the same racial status quo, by its very nature, must be what? Revolutionary. It's got to be. In other words, the whites who have all of the money and have all of the power, military advantage, economic advantage, social advantage, cultural advantage, all of the other advantages we talk about, they must be educated to maintain and advance those advantages. Therefore, their education is what? Fundamentally conservative. To hold on to what they got. You understand? That's why you can't give your children the same education as white children. They're not in the same place. What are they conserving? Their deprivation? Yeah. And in a sense, we are being educated to conserve our deprivation and to perpetuate our oppression. When you go around this world and you tell me every African nation that you visit, whether it is in the Caribbean, Central or South America, or on the African continent itself, you see African people at the bottom of social, economic, and other ladders. Even in their own countries, other groups are stacked on top of them, one right after the other. The same thing that Marcus Garvey saw when he moved around the world. How can you say your children must have the same education as a white child? When you tell me that the wealth of the world is located on the African continent and located in the lands of non-whites, when you tell me that Japan, which has no natural resources at all, and yet is seen as one of the richest and most powerful nations on earth, that you want your children to have the same education, you have to be out of your minds. Some of you sit here and you innocently talk about, I want to be equal. That's all I want. I want to be equal. Do you know what? That's a revolutionary statement, you know that. A lot of people don't recognize that. They think they're non-revolutionary, you know. They think revolutionaries are people who want to shoot and fight. And so now we just wanted everybody to be the same. Do you know what you're saying? Do you know the tremendous amount of transference of wealth that must take place for black folk to be equal with white folk? Yeah. The tremendous control over resources, the tremendous ownership of real estate in this country, the real ownership of the means of production. Are you really talking about equality? You can't be. And so if you start to realize what you're saying when you say that you just want to be equal and you want all people to be the same, you'd realize that you are a revolutionary and you're making a revolutionary statement. Because for black people to be equal in this country will call for a major reconstruction and a major reorganization of this nation. You have to understand that. You know, in New York, they're asking blacks who are fighting the Jews in Crown Heights, how are we going to reduce racial tension? You know, and they keep pushing them, and I wish they would ask me that. I'm not here to reduce racial tension. I'm here to increase it. I bring not peace, but what? A sword. Because in a city, as cities all across this country, where blacks don't even own their own communities, where they only spend a nickel out of every dollar they have with themselves, there cannot be racial peace and harmony until that's changed around. And there's going to be some racial turmoil while we change it around. It's got to be. We got to get ready for another 10 or 15 or 20 years of racial tension. Because it's going to take that for us to gain, if you want to call it, equality in the system. You know, you have some groups, when we were picketing stores and so forth, after they had insulted some of our women, as you're familiar with out here, well, why don't you get your own stores? And you have to remind them, but you really don't mean that. You're just trying to put me down. Because if I own my own store, how would you make a living? So in a sense, you're going to object just as much to me owning my own as you're objecting to me now picketing yours. Because in the long run, your wealth depends on mine not owning something. And therefore, when I start owning, you're going to have another reason to fight me. So let's get used to tension. You're going to catch hell one way or the other. So you may as well catch it in the right way. This is why I talk to black psychologists who get into these useless arguments with Europeans about the cultural bias of intelligence tests. Because you must understand, it's not about cultural bias. It's not about the test at all. It's about power and the rationalization of oppression and control. As soon as you prove to them that you are as smart or smarter than they are still going to do what? Kill you. Of course. This is the way people act in real life. You get rid of your what? Your rivals. So the issue is not, right now they say we're keeping you down because you're too dumb, right? But then when you go the other way, we got to get rid of you because you threaten our way of life and our economy. So you may as well get intelligent and get ready and get the battle on, because either way, you're not. This is what it's about.